Sabbath. This is a special Sabbath because it is the first of the Torah cycle. We are getting the privilege of engaging with the Creator of the universe according to His design schedule, His design means of interface. He has ordained that we would learn about Him and about our reason for being alive, and about the mission that He has set for us in this earth, about the goodness focus that we're supposed to have. He's designed and determined that we should learn about this through the medium of the Torah, the first 5 books of the Bible. This is the revelation stream, the fountain at which all revelation comes. And all revelation that we receive that comes after sequentially the Torah is to be interpreted in light of the Torah revelations that we've received. So therefore, the Torah colors, it brings the flavor and the fragrance into every other part of the Bible, of the prophets, the writings of wisdom, of the stories of Yeshua, of the letters of the various different apostles of Yeshua, of the beautiful love story called Revelation. At the end, all these things that we receive, all these things that we will receive over the course of time, are to be interpreted in light of and are to be flavored by the beautiful revelations of Torah. So the Holy One is beginning us anew on a new cycle. Every year we go through about 54 different subdivisions of these first 5 books. And it takes about 50 weeks. So we're looking at a project now. We get to join with each other and join with the Holy One in walking out over a course of about 50 weeks of study this introduction course on how to live a well-lived life upon the earth. This is wisdom. This is the wisdom of the Creator, knowing the creation, knowing His man, knowing the ecosystem and how it works, knowing the plan from beforehand. The Holy One has given us wise counsel, stories, parables, as well as direct instructions, mitzvot, or commandments, as many people wish to call them. In the Torah, He has designed for us how to live a well-lived life. This is like an operator's manual for life in the mortal body, for life upon this earth, and for how to have a good influence, how to have a good impact, how to do well, how to bring about His plan upon the earth in real time, in real life situations, in the face of real people, in the situations. So we begin with Parsha Bereshit. And I call this particular week, it's Genesis chapter 1, verse 1 through 6-8, the first of these 54 subdivisions that we'll read. And Bereshit is the name of it, and it comes from the very first word in the Hebrew which this book was written in. The Hebrew, all words were spoken by the Holy One in Hebrew and recorded by Moshe in Hebrew. So Bereshit, the first phrase is usually it's translated as in the beginning, Bereshit. And so the stories we're going to read, the parables we're going to be put out, and the truths we're going to be taught, as well as the instructions we're going to be given, and the instructions of what not to do that we're going to be given, are all going to be part of this great unfolding that He wishes to do. He's laying the framework for the greater part of the story, which will be found in the center point of Torah, which is the book of Leviticus. Be holy as I am holy, in specific ways. And so before we get to all that, He's laying out the foundations. And so I call this Parsha, and our study of it, I call this shir, this teaching that I'm doing right now, this discussion that I'm leading right now with you, wherever you may be, I call it From the Foundation of the World. And subtitle, Vayehi Ken. That's a Hebrew phrase. It means something from the Song of Creation, the first chapter. Multiple times it's repeated. Vayehi Ken in Hebrew. And as He said it, so it is, and so it was, and so it will be. Vayehi Ken. Well, that's our basic theme, is life on earth is as the Holy One has designed it. With issues that arise that human beings tend to bring into play, But the Holy One is always bringing it back into play, making all things work together for good, which we will hopefully have a chance to talk about what that means for those who love it, who are called according to his purpose. And beloved, we're all sons of Adam. We're all called according to his purpose. Some of us have specific assignments different than others by virtue of our bloodline, by virtue of our relationship to the covenant. But we're all sons of Adam, and we're all here for the purpose of the Holy One. We're called according to his purpose, so the Holy One is working all things together for good for all of us. Now, every time we start a new cycle, and we're doing that today, obviously, as we've discussed, every time we start a new cycle, we have to determine what specific lens this year, the year that we're doing this cycle, is going to be viewed through. And so I have chosen for my purposes to use a specific lens this year, and I'm trying to stay faithful to that lens. There's many ways in which we can approach the Torah. There are many levels at which it teaches us. But here's the lens that I intend to try to employ this year. Maybe encourage you to go along with me on. And that is to look at the kingdom of heaven and the plan of the Holy One through the mindset of prodigals returning home and reporting for duty. The latter part is the most important part. The first part is identifying who we are. We're not theologians. We're not some sort of wonderful gift to humanity because we're so much superior in morality or in knowledge or in understanding or any other thing than other people. We're just prodigals. Returning home, we have had an issue. We have had multiple issues, and we are now trying to fix that. We're trying to respond to a call from the Holy One to come home, to come to his wisdom, to come to his ways, to reconnect with him as a person, as a persona, as a personality, and to also reconnect with his ways and these beautiful instructions for how to live a well-lived life upon the earth, which Torah contains. So we're going to look at the kingdom and the plan of the Holy One through the mindset of prodigals returning home. But the latter phrase that I referenced, that I'll repeat again, not just prodigals returning home just for the sake of returning home, but returning home and reporting for duty. As you know at this time, if you've heard any news at all over the past week, the people of the covenant are at war. Attacks have been made. We're not going to get into issues of politics, blame. Those are theoretical issues of the pseudo-intellect. The issue becomes now a war is raging, an attack is happening. And what is going on all over the world is that people who are citizens of Israel, young men, young women who are citizens of Israel, who are in the reserves of the IDF, the Israeli Defense Forces, are returning from wherever they are over the earth. They're returning, getting on airplanes and returning back to Israel and reporting for duty, reporting for deployment. We're all engaged. Now, this is the idea, looking at the kingdom and looking at the plan of the Holy One, looking at our lives through the lens of prodigals returning home, but not just returning home for a visit or to get blessed. Returning home and reporting for duty. So we'll try to focus on what the duty assignments are, what our responsibility and our accountability is, what our impact upon the world we're returning to, upon the kingdom we're returning to, the plan we're returning to will be. That is our focus. And I want you to consider a couple of passages, actually 3 passages in this regard. One is the call of Abraham. Go out for yourselves. Go out. Lech lecha. Go out for yourselves. Genesis 12, 1, 3. And I will make you, and you will become. These are the ideas of the call of Abraham. This is the prodigal returning home and reporting for duty. 17, verse 1 says, walk before me and be blameless. The Holy One speaking to Abraham again. That's chapter 17 of Genesis. Verse 1. Walk before me and be blameless. Now this, be without the tinge, the scent, the pollution, the corruption of the world's viewpoints, the theologies, the philosophies, the ideologies, the politics. Be without that. Be instead the servant of the Most High. realizing our citizenship is with him, not with a group of people that is all upset into their pseudo-intellect and their emotions. So the first scripture is the call of Avraham, Genesis 12, 1 through 3, and Genesis 17, 1. The second one is also about Avraham. It's from Genesis 22, 1. And he says, go up to go up to Mount Moriah, go up to the mountain, and take Yitzhak your son. And Abraham's response in verse 1 is, Hineni, here I am. He's returning home, but he's reporting for duty. Here am I. Hineni. And that's the same, of course, message, same words that were spoken in Isaiah 6:8 by the prophet Yeshua, or Isaiah as he's known in the Western world. In 6:8, after the great vision of the kings on the throne, and the glory of the king, and the pillars are shaken, and the angel touches his lips, and he realizes he's unclean. But after his lips are cleansed and he's made to be understood, he's forgiven, then he says, here am I, send me. Well, this is the idea of reporting for duty. And of course the third is the parable of the prodigal son itself, and that's in Luke chapter 15. And we see that we wonder what happened after he returned home, after the prodigal returned home. It wasn't just a matter of coming home. That's the basis of this story. But there's more to the story. What happens when you come home? What happens when you come back to the pathway? What happens when you come back to the Father? What happens when you come back to his plan? What happens when you step back into his instructions for how to live a well-lived life? That's our mission. Now, Terah's opening parsha, that's Bereshit, is a prelude to the greatest love story and adventure story of all time. The heavens resound with this story. The song of the creation is this story, that the creator of the heavens and the earth loves mankind and loves his ecosystem that he has created for mankind. And he watches carefully over both. And he is bringing both to a beautiful culmination. He was not satisfied to just let these things wander and go as they will. He is a great ecosystem manager. He is a creator who cares about his creation. And mankind and creation are both part of that plan. Well, the part of the leading man is going to be defined. Who is this that brought this about? Who created? Where did we come from? Who did we come from? Why did he do what he did? The part of the leading man, the immaculate protagonist in this great love story, this great adventure story, is the Holy One himself. He's called in our early chapters Elohim, the ultimate superlative authority figure, the ultimate source of all things and wise counselor. He is the Holy One. He is the leading man. He wrote the play. He wrote the story. He designed it. He directs it. He is engaged with it at all times. He's the creator, and he is the ecosystem manager that we can trust to know what's best for us and to know how this needs to turn out. Well, then there's the leading lady. The leading lady in this situation, I'm going to give it globally, is the mother of all living, the earth as it is, the earth stuff, the things that are outside the realm where the Holy One lives, but are responding to his voice and to his call. The earth that we know. It's the earth side of creation. Well, then we have also in this great story of love and also of adventure, we have to have antagonists. And who are these antagonists? They are many of the nations and many of the individuals who decide to play the role of antagonists. They just react negatively to the leadership and the presence and the ways of the Holy One. So they choose to be antagonists. Why do the nations rage? And the peoples imagine a vain thing. These are the antagonists of the story. They're not hated. They're understood that they also serve a part, and God works all things together, even their evil, even the darkness that they perform, the dark acts that they perform. He, in time, makes all things beautiful, and he brings, for the sake of his ecosystem, and for the sake of his creation, mankind, for the sake of the grand plan that he has for both mankind and creation, he will cause all things to work together for good in the long run, although we may not be able to see it in our short-term vision in our lifetime. But there won't just be antagonists. There will also be protagonists, supporting cast members. One nation in particular, the covenant nation of descendants from Abraham that we've already talked about today. This is going to be the primary supporting actor. And Abraham's seed has this role to play to make the plan go forward. And basically that serves as somewhat the earth sub-manager under the Holy One's leadership. We're not to lord it over people, but we are to bring out the best in them and in the ecosystem. Oh, and there's also in the story, of course, one who stands in the wings and does things secretly, who keeps all the action sequences moving by his whispers, and that's called Hanakash, or the serpent. We'll see him from time to time. But let's get started. Before we actually get into the text and see what the Holy One has to say, how he reveals himself to us, let's sing our call to worship. If you know it in Hebrew, it's Barakhu, a blessing before reading from the Torah. If you know it, you can sing along. If not, just enjoy the sound of the Hebrew words wafting through the air, bypassing your mind somewhat and going directly into your spirit to awaken it, your neshama, to bring it forth, to cause you to be more than just the fleshly person that you thought you were. Here we go. Baruch hu et Adonai Hamvorak. Baruch Adonai Hamvorak Leolam Vaed. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher bakar banu mikol ha'amin v'natan lanu et Torato. Baruch atah Adonai noten haTorah. And now, would you open our eyes, O Holy One, that we may see wondrous things in your Torah? For we are but strangers in the earth. So do not hide your commandments from us. We left off last week because Torah keeps replenishing itself, repeating itself. So when we left off in Deuteronomy chapter 34. That was the last thing we read. And at that time, after Moshe had died, there was the epitaph. And the epitaph said, "There is not arisen in Israel a prophet like unto Moshe, whom the Holy One knew face to face." This is supposed to awaken things in us, our spirit, as we begin our new season. To know him face to face. There's not a prophet like Moshe has arisen yet, whom the Holy One knew face to face. In all the signs and wonders that the Holy One sent him to do, the work, the deployment, the assignment, why we are here. In the land of Egypt, before Pharaoh, his face, before all of his servants and all his land, that we will be to demonstrate the ways of the Holy One to the world. And by all the mighty power and by all the great awesomeness in which Moshe operated, we are to learn how to take the example of Moshe and operate in mighty power and great awesomeness. That's our aspiration, at least. That's our reporting for duty, that believing that he will enable us to do this. And then the final words of Deuteronomy, the final words of Devarim, the final words that lead up to this moment is, "in the sight of all Israel." Oh, do we have eyes to see? And if we have eyes to see, are they more than just seeing war? Are they more than just seeing weather? Are they more than just seeing politicians doing what politicians do, and governments doing what governments do, and ideologies doing what ideologies do? Or do we have eyes to see? So these words, "in the sight of all Israel." Oh, what do you see? What do you see as we open the doors and the pages of Torah? What do you see? Well, take your seats. It's time for Bereshit. Be on the lookout for the things that Moshe wrote about. Well, it starts like this in Genesis 1:1. Bereshit, which usually translated "in the beginning," really it might be more particularly described as in the context of a shaking or a vibration, in the way of a vibration. Bereshit, and then the next words are bara Elohim. Usually translated the Creator created, God created, the Creator carved out, separated out, caused to exist, separate realms, bara, he created. He created what? Et HaShamayim is the first thing. The first element of his creation is Et HaShamayim, which are the heavens. This is the realm of choreographed movement, the realm where things flow in accordance with the will and the plans of the Holy One. That's offsetting parallel world number one. That's where he resides. That's where he makes his home. But he didn't just create Et HaShamayim. Bara Elohim Et HaShamayim, but Et Haaretz. He also created Et Haaretz, the earth, the realm of independence of will, the realm where things do not move in smooth, rhythmic motions according to the plan and the design. Things where things come on a haphazard basis. This is offsetting parallel world number two. We have the heavens, and everything is beautiful. We have the earth, and the Holy One wants to make everything beautiful here. And we are participants in the plan. Bereshit bara Elohim et Shamayim ve'et haaretz. That's how it begins. And this is sort of the story out of which everything else will come. It is the Holy One who creates these things. Why did he create them? We'll talk some about that perhaps. What is the function? What was the design? What was the strategy? What was the sequence he used? What came upon what? What came first? What came second? What came third? These are the parts that he's going to tell us in the great beginning chapter, chapter 1. It's a song, and it has repeating phrases, one of which was Vayehi Ken, as we talked about this subtitle of this lesson. And it was, and it is, and it will be, because he spoke it. He begins with Bereshit. Bereshit, the verb at which the root of this is a verb that means to shake or to vibrate, to cause things to shake out, to cause vibrations and frequencies to alter the atmosphere. Well, to bring about separations. Well, that's what takes place. That's the etymology. That's where the word comes from. In, ba, at the beginning prefix is ba, in, and there's no the. It's not the beginning. It's not the anything. It's in a shaking, in a vibration, in a release of frequency, in the release of rhythmic motions. Something happened, and that's where the bara comes from. Well, there are prophetic implications, because this is what the Holy One does. He sends forth shakings. And these shakings are designed to bring about good. They're designed to bring about the plan of the Creator of the universe. These vibrations, these frequencies that come out, we will either get caught up in them and flow with them and get into rhythm with them, or we will go in another route. We will be notes that are not consonant, that are not congruous with his plan, or we will be those who follow it. What is the appropriate response when he shakes things? Fear, anger, opportunism. What is it? No, submission to his will, surrender to his goodness, trust in who he is and what he's doing. So he said that after he said he created, or barad, the Holy One barad, the heavens and the earth, he said haaretz hayeta tohu v'vohu, and the earth, the eretz, the place of self-will and independence of will from the Holy One's plan, the place of discordance, was without form, tohu, a chaotic wasteland. And it was void. It was purposeless. It didn't seem to have any function or reality. Does your world seem like that sometime? Just chaotic, a wasteland, getting more and more a wasteland every day? Does it seem like it's useless? It serves no purpose. That it's going nowhere. Well, that's what the situation. He says that's what it was. But this is what he's doing. So, vehoshek al panei tehom, the darkness covered the face of the deep. It seemed like there was no light, no vision. You can't see in the dark. So darkness, a complete lack of light that prevents life from thriving, was over the face of the deep, the eternal, that which rises in tumult. All this stuff was going on, and it seemed like there was no hope. But then, the Ruach Elohim, the spirit, the breath of the Holy One, of the Creator, merachafet et al panei hamayim, Merachafet al Pnei Hamayim. And the breath, the Spirit of the Holy One moved with great fluttering, vibration causing, tension getting, movement, churn over the churning face of the deep, of the chaos, of the darkness, of the void. And then things begin to happen. This is what the Holy One's doing. This is what, if we don't understand this about his nature, about his character, about his actions, about the way he does things, his way, then we will always think we're supposed to address things critically and judgmentally, as opposed to transformatively in a way that brings about good. He goes on in the next verse, after he moves and flutters like a mother hen over the face of the deep and the tumult and the chaos, and he begins to send his own essence, his own persona, his own shalom into it. Then there's a portal opened, and he's be able to speak into this chaos we call this world, this earth. And he says, V'amar Elohim Yehior. And so now the earth responds, has a chance to respond at least to the words Yehior. What does that mean? Yehior. Let there be light. We usually translate it in English. It's more of an imperative. Yehior. Let there be light. Light, be. Be who you are. Be what you are. Show forth. Give vision. So he says, Vayamar Elohim Yehior V'Yehior. And light was. Light existed. Light shining, pulsing, brightness that illuminates and gives perspective and vision just was. It's not the sun. We know on earth, we know physical things like the sun and the moon and lights indoors and things that men made. But this is not that. This is the light that was in the dwellings of the Hebrews whenever the Egyptians knew only darkness. This is the light that comes from the Spirit of God moving and the energy that's sent forth into the resistance of the world and causes light, illumination to take place. Revelation, wisdom. The text continues. Let's go on from Vayehior to Vayare Elohim et haor kitov. And the Creator looked and beheld and saw that the or, the light, the brightness that illuminates, was for good. Kitov was for a recurring fountain of releasing things that were conducive to man's purpose, to man's mission, and to the ecosystem's continued existence and thriving. Vayare Elohim et haor kitov. Boy, the Holy One's going to repeat these phrases. Kitov, it is good. Oh, beloved, if you understand that from the Holy One's perspective, and with his vision, everything can work together for good. Everything is a fountain that can produce things that are conducive to the ecosystem's thriving and flourishing, and to man's fulfilling his purpose, even things that in our limited vision, because we're mortal and not eternal, because we only see through our eyes of flesh, look to us to be damaging, destructive, and, quote, evil. But he continues, Vayare Elohim et haor kitov, v'yavdel Elohim bein haor vein et hachosh. And he divided, he separated, he caused a breaking forth, a breaking point between the light and the darkness. We choose one or the other. We choose to live in whether it's physically dark outside or whether it's physically light outside. We choose whether we will walk in the Holy One's light or not. That choice will determine the value, the quality of our life and our lifetime upon the earth. He goes on, V'chara Elohim leor yom v'lechosek kara leila. He chose titles or prophetic empowerments to go with these different phenomenons of light and darkness. The or, the light, the divine eminence that shows illumination and revelation to the world, he called it Yom. And we sometimes translate it as day. It's not a time sequence. It is an element of the creation plan. It is functioning in the creation plan in a certain interval. And so we have that in the other realm, the realm of darkness, where no light shines, where we do not have the emanation of the illumination or the revelation. That he called Lela. It's a Lela. It is a sense of no perspective, no vision, no energy. So he goes on. In 1:4b, he says, Vayehi erev, Vayehi boker, and then it was evening, and it was morning. You see how he set up time. Mankind looks at time as, I don't know, they define their own times. Like whether it starts at midnight and goes to 11:59, that's a day or a yom, or whether they choose to make it from daylight to dark and call that the yom. Men do what men do, and it's just their own way of thinking about things. The Holy One says, no, I consider a yom from the evening, from the darkness, when the covering of the darkness exists, but I see it with its potential, so I see evening turning into morning. And so evening and morning is the first day. Yom Echad, he calls it, the day of unified oneness, a day pulsing with energy, like the energy of nuclear fission, fusion, and momentum, and of gravity. Okay, so let's talk about this issue of light. Do you have vision? Do you have perspective? And do you have it not just from the standpoint of being able to read trends of humanity, or read weather maps, or read maps of travel from Google Maps? Do you have it from the standpoint of seeing what's developing from the eyes of the Holy One? Do you have a sense of illumination? The Holy One is showing you things. Are you involved in a sequence of revelation? That's why we have the Torah, so that we can maintain our connection with the essential ways of revealing himself. Self-reveal that the Holy One wants to do, and reveal of his plan that he wants to do comes through primarily the Torah. He builds upon that. He does not limit himself to that, but that's going to be the ultimate gold standard of revelation. Now, the purposes of man. One thing about what the Holy One does, really the focal point of the creation story is not on the creating of heavens and the earth, or the creatings of the dry land and the waters, or the things that grow. Those are all building towards something else. They build toward the creation of man. The Holy One designs man for a special series of purposes. Man is an essential part of his creation. Man is not the enemy of creation, as many people might think today, or teach, or the ideologies may teach that, or the theologians may teach it. Here's the deal. The man is designed to be a facilitator of the ecosystem, and designed to make it even better than it was. Let's talk about the mission. The mission plan of man is spelled out in the Torah. And we're going to see this devolve and become picked up and added to through the covenant. And the covenant will tell us specifically more about how to do these things. But these things will be the essence of the mission always. The mission of all the sons of Adam. And that includes every one of us, and every nation, and every tribe, and every ethnicity. The purpose of all mankind is to do a certain number of things that he mentions in the first chapter. Actually, the first two chapters, if you want to add it, of the Torah. The first two chapters of Bereshit. The first thing that he tells us to do, man is to do, is to become the cell. Tzel would be the way you'd spell it if you tried to transliterate it into English. The cell, and usually it's translated image. Let us create man in our own cell, or to be our own cell. Cell image is kind of a incomplete way of looking at it. It's the same word is used for shade or shadow. The idea is that we are to shadow the Holy One. We are to do what he does, move as he moves, project the image of who he is into this world of chaos and destruction and tohu vavohu and all the things that the Holy One has made. We're to take that which is on in heaven and bring it to earth, on earth as it is in heaven. So we're at cell. That's the mission of all mankind. Now, mankind is not going to do that very well as a whole, and therefore there will be specific people called to call us back, call mankind back, and model for mankind how to get back to that Zel function. It's not just Zel, however, not just image. Let's make man in our own image, in our own likeness, it is in English. Dama is the Hebrew noun that we would use, and it means a calling, the calling of God upon our lives, the calling of God upon man to be this great ecosystem manager, assistant down here on earth, to bring good things to bear, to emulate, to copy, to imitate the ways of the Holy One, the creative energy and sequencing of the Holy One, with the vision of the Holy One for the long term as opposed to the short term. So we are to be the Tzel, and we are to be the Dama. When we fail, when we fall, there are to be people. There are to be the sons and daughters of Abraham and the covenant. There are to be those who call us back and show us the way. That's what Israel is all about. Well, that goes on. Now, specifically with regard to these two specific callings upon mankind, the purposes for mankind, Zel calling and the Dama calling, there are a series of I believe it's 8 different methods of doing that, different techniques of doing that. As a painter would have a series of different kind of brushstrokes or approaches to the canvas, so it is we're supposed to bring 8 different approaches, have 8 different levels of creativity released to do the function of Zel and Dama callings. The first one is Peru, to bring forth fruit, to bear fruit in which is seed, to be fruitful, as it says in English. And this being fruitful means that we're not just producing things to look good. We're providing for the ecosystem. We're providing for the plant. And we're bringing forth seeds which will cause this to take place generation after generation. This is the first part of being at Zel. The Holy One has an eternal focus, a cross-generational focus, and is very much into fruit. And we will produce fruit. What kind of fruit are we producing? Are we producing good fruit consistent with the one we're supposed to be the Zel and the Dama of? Or are we producing another kind of fruit altogether, or no fruit whatsoever? So Peru is the first one. The second one, the second part of the calling of mankind specifically is Urevu, and that means to rav, to make something bigger or greater than it was, to increase things, to expand things, to make them greater in influence and impact than they were, to build out, a build-out plan. So are we building something? Are we leaving something more influential in the world of the kingdom than we received? Are we building, not just are we bearing fruit on an individual situation in an individual season and reaping seed, are we causing a sort of a transformation in the world, of kingdom becoming great? The third aspect of man's Zel and Dama calling is to Male, to bring things to fullness, not just to start something and stop, not to be sort of, ADHD, where we can't complete a project, but to continue to be patient and to be persevere and to be diligent and vigilant and steadfast to bring whatever it is that he envisions to fullness, and not to quit because it gets hard, not to quit because there's some resistance, not to quit because there's obstacles, but to continue to keep the vision going. So Puru, Urvu, Male, bring to fullness. And the next thing is to Rada. We are to in English it says take dominion, I believe it is. The idea is to tread on something, to bring out all the goodness of. Like you have grapes, you don't want to just squeeze the grape a little bit. You tread it down until every little drop of juice has gotten out. Same thing with regard to oil. You press the oil, you press the olives until every drop of pure oil can be extracted from it. To avrada doesn't just mean to take some sort of power over or exercise some sort of worldly authority over these things, over the things we're given charge of, but instead to bring out every good thing that's in them, to bring out the potential in them. The fifth of the different aspects of our Zel and Dama calling, how we imitate the Holy One and bring its shadow to the earth, is called Chabash. It means to harness the strength and energy of all things. We are to harness the innate, the hidden potential, and energy of all things. Like the way you train a horse. You take a wild stallion or a wild mare, and you begin to work with that mare, and you begin to harness the energy where it's made fruitful, made productive, made useful, made safe, and yet made the strength begins to come out in its fullness. And then the sixth of the 8 aspects of our Zel and Dhamma calling is to abad, tend, serve, cultivate, incubate the earth. Take the things that are given to us and serve them in a way, and till them and tend them in a way that brings out continued fruitfulness. And then the 7th is shamar. We are to guard, tend and keep, he said. Man is to tend and keep the garden. Shamar. We are to, it's not just a matter of keeping, it's cherishing, it's valuing, it's prizing, it's enjoying, it's delighting in, and taking pleasure in, and yet very much in making feel important the things the Holy One has given to us. And then so important, we'll consider them, that we will guard and protect them against all pollution and all corruption. This is the 7th part of what man's Zel and Dhamma calling is. And the final part is Zava, that he commanded. The idea is that we are recipients of commandments and instructions. We are to be responsive to the Holy One's instructions. That's why he created us, because we have the capacity, unlike animals or other types of creatures out there, birds, we have the capacity to actually receive and process through our mind, our will, and emotions and our body actions, actually process his instructions, his divine mitzvot, his zavah. Well, that's the idea of man's essential purpose. How are we doing on that? How is that coming in our lives? Well, those are the essential purposes. The basic truth we need to understand is that he has invited us into an ecosystem that he created for us. We are stewards of that. It is not of our design, our making, our ownership. It is his. We live in his world and we serve his purposes. He has a great plan. His plan, if followed, and his instructions, if heeded, will bring about the ultimate potential for this ecosystem, this world that he created. His plan, his instructions will bring about mankind's highest and best use, his best life, his best world, his best way. We're not here to be served by the ecosystem. We're not here to be served by other men. We're not here to assert our superiority over anyone. We're not here to take physical dominion and subject to submission all other people or anything. We are not here to be served. We're here to serve. We're not here to be made comfortable. But we are here to bring about the best in whatever we're dealing, including ourselves and our fellow man. We're not here to be made happy. We're here to bring about joy, to awaken joy in us and awaken joy in other people. That's not happiness. Happiness is depending on circumstances, how you feel about a given thing. Joy is the ultimate state of knowing we're doing the will of the Holy One. We are here to serve the Holy One and mankind and creation, the ecosystem, and to do it humbly, and to do it responsibly, and to do it enthusiastically according to instructions. Through his methodologies that we just referenced, and through the ways not by our own way of thinking and doing things, not by some ideologies teaching, or some political or governmental theories teaching, not according to some religion. We're supposed to do it according to him, and his ways, his instructions. We're to be humble, responsible, at shalom, and enthusiastically anxious and excited about playing our assigned role in his grand plan for mankind and for creation. Now, we have to remember this. Neither he nor creation owes us anything. Nothing. We're not entitled. We are privileged. We are honored. We are blessed to be able to participate in this plan. And we owe him who created us everything. One more subject we'll cover, and that's sort of the center point of the story. Not the garden. The garden is sort of what led to the next part of the story. I believe the center point, the most important part of the Parsha Bereshit, is the story of the brothers Cain and Abel. Cain was the eldest son of Adam and Hava after they left the garden, after they were expelled from the garden. Cain was a blessed man. He was given the empowerment and the talent and the skill and the drive and the energy by the Holy One to take a world in which thorns and thistles and weeds were everywhere and take his own energy and his own creativity and apply that and bring forth a great harvest of edible and usable plants and trees. He was able to make this great harvest. He was greatly gifted and greatly skilled. He had everything he needed of this world. He had the calling to be this great blessing to the world through his skill of agriculture, through his skill of making a harvest come forth out of weeds and thorns and thistles. Oh, what blessedness was upon Cain, and what a calling was upon his life. But then he had a brother, and the brother's name was Hevel. We call him Abel in English language, but Hevel. That means here and gone, here a moment and gone, and we'll talk about why perhaps. But Hevel also had a calling upon his life and a gifting upon his life. It was meant to be synergistic to and complementary of and inspirational for Cain to keep him focused. The blessing upon Hevel's life was to be able to cause animals, flocks and herds, to be fruitful and multiply and serve the purposes for which they were created, and the purposes for mankind as well as for creation, for the ecosystem. And to be very, very close to the Holy One, to have intimacy and receive word and communication with the Holy One very intimately. And Cain had his own calling and its own blessedness, his own way. Hevel had his own. They were designed to work together to be synergistic. But something happened in Cain. One day, he saw that to him, Hevel's blessing and Hevel's calling and Hevel's communion with the Holy One was different than his. And therefore he decided to respond to that, not by giving thanks, not by blessing and cooperating with what he was given, the brother he was given to help energize and inspire him. He became jealous. He became angry. He became sullen. He became withdrawn. He did not humbly, responsibly, and enthusiastically pray for his brother. Neither he nor his descendants, unfortunately, were able to take that blessing. Now the issue is us. Will we? Will we? Will we be like Cain? Will we look upon somebody else's blessing, someone else's calling, somebody else's relationship with the Holy One? And because we see that, will we then become angry and sullen? Or will we be thankful and grateful? Will we work together with those people? With the nation of Israel is a perfect example. The nation of Israel, the people of the covenant, are designed to function like Hevel. The nations of the world, the peoples of the individual, are designed to function like Cain. We are to function together and synergize and energize each other. Would we do that? Can we do that? Will we do that? This is the question that lies before us. Shabbat Shalom. See you next week.